So, good afternoon, Anton. Thank you so much for joining us. Will you please introduce yourself and tell us what your big job is?
Thank you, Louise. Yes, I'm Anton Kruger. I'm from the Fresh Produce Exporters Forum in South Africa, where we represent 95% of all the exporters of fresh produce. So in essence, our role is to make it possible for the exporters to export. And then I'm also serving on the Country Council of IFPA, the International Fresh Produce Association. So I've been on the council for 12 years now, when it was still the PMA, and we've seen the changes within the organization. But we're very glad, I think, that we've managed to get a more Southern African and South African focus within IFPA. That it's not only a focus on the US, although the head office is in the US, but we see the understanding of the South African market, of our dynamics that are quite different than the rest of the world, and all our challenges. And I think that is this conference as well, why that's called the Southern African Conference. And we want to address the challenges, the issues, equip the members of IFPA with knowledge, with expertise. I think, as you've seen now, some of the speakers.
Wow.
And from my side, well, seeing that we're so involved on the export side, what I'm impressed with is Michelle Phillips, the CEO of Transnet. The whole change that she brought about, she's been in the position permanently now for 6-7 months. She made huge changes in terms of the culture, transparency, the willingness to work with the private sector, to ask us for how can we make things happen together, transparent, open, and that permeates down to the other managers within Transnet, especially in the ports. Port of Cape Town, in some year or what ago, some other senior people at Transnet said, well, the wind is the problem in Cape Town. So we said, the wind's been blowing for 120 years since we started exporting fruit.
Yes.
What do you do when the wind stops? How quickly do you recover? Now we've got proper recovery plans. It's been shared with the industry immediately afterwards. We've got meetings every morning. We call it war room meetings at 10 o'clock, 20-minute operational. Okay, what happened yesterday? What's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? We provide the information on the volumes that they can expect so that they can plan. We do a lot of things together. And therefore, we're very glad to see that, and again, realistic, things that need to change. Equipment, as Michelle said as well, but it cannot happen overnight. But again, to have the private sector participation in that. And we're quite willing. We've been offering assistance all these years. And now I think it's being accepted and we can move ahead.
She certainly seemed very impressive with her presentation. And as people say, she's been talking the talk, and she certainly looks like she's walking the walk as well.
That's true. If you see what she put out on the equipment, the hauliers, for instance, when she promised there will be 47 before the end of September, and half of those have been delivered already.
Wow.
So the other will be here. She said that other pieces of equipment, the rubber tie gantries, so many will be delivered, half of them be delivered already. So it's not only talk, as you said.
Fantastic.
I've got a question. Because we've got incredible produce in our country, and I think a lot of people know that we've got incredible. What can we do? What can the people on the ground, the growers, the exporters, do more to promote our incredible produce so that it's in more demand overseas?
The demand is already there. The problem is we don't have access to all the markets.
Okay.
And that is again where we, as now are talking, wearing the hat of the FPEF, the Fresh Produce Exporters Forum, where we've been engaging with our government, the Department of Agriculture, previously Land Reform, Rural Development, for the past 8 to 10 years and say, let's take hands and go especially to the east, because some of the markets in Europe and the UK are saturated. We need to find more markets. We've got 35% growth in fruit volumes until 2032. So we need to find homes for that.
Yes.
And then that market access is a bilateral between governments. But from industry side, we do a lot of technical work, do research work. We assist. We say to the government, let's go. So we provide a schedule every year. We've got 9 priority countries in the east, where we then go, say for the past more than 10 years, every year, to be involved in the discussions with those governments, together with either our embassy in that country or officials from Pretoria. So to see what are the difficulties, why don't we have access, what can we do. And interestingly, sometimes it's a matter of interpretation in the different languages.
Okay.
And so one of the countries didn't realize that orange is part of citrus. It was a long thing that we went there, and I said, we went to the guy's office, that official from the country, and I said, just show me your document. I said, but that's orange, citrus sinensis, it's an orange. So it's on your list.
and on in terms of mitigating protocols, because some of these eastern countries got some very strict protocols in place, that some of them are almost unfound, or not necessary these days.
One of the big challenges is there's call it a plant disease, a pest, a false codling moth.
Yes.
You only get it in Africa.
Yes.
Nowhere else in the world. So on flowers from Kenya and fruit. So we need to have either cold treatment protocols or systems. So we try and get those countries to agree to a systems approach. That is to see right from the farm through the whole process, how do we mitigate that?
Yes.
Various things that we can do. Instead of only the cold treatment, because some of those cold treatment protocols are very harsh.
Yes.
For instance, lemons can't take the protocol that Japan wants or that China wants. The quality deteriorates.
Yes. But then lemons also are not a host for FCA.
Yes. But as you understand, and also the citrus black spot issue with Europe.
We are aware of these issues.
Yes. But one of the other challenges is we get access to the markets after long years, 15 years for apples to China.
Yes, I remember that.
We're at now avocados successes, the recent 2-3 years for China, for Japan, for India.
Yes.
But then we stuck with huge import duties and tariffs in those countries. For instance, in India, we pay up between 32 and 53% import duties. I'm also part of SHAFE, the Southern Hemisphere Association of Fresh Fruit Exporters. All 8 the Southern Hemisphere countries which export fresh fruit, this organization where we come together and discuss things that are common. And we put together a table to see with our competitor countries, all the target markets in the east that we're all exporting to, what's the situation with regards to free trade agreements, preferential trade agreements, put it in a table with red, green and amber blocks. South Africa is red right through. No agreements. We're part of BRICS.
Yes.
We don't have an agreement with China or India. So we say, those we pay those high import duties. But then coming back to what you initially said, the quality of our fruit. India still, despite the 53%, they want our fruit. You have the 53% import duty on apples.
Yes.
They want the fruit.
If I'm looking at a correction, and please correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they recently drop the import duties on apples from the States, India? I believe I read something like that somewhere in the
Yes, they are from the other countries. That's what I said. The exporting country, or our target countries in the east, they've got very favorable trade agreements with our competitors and with other countries. One of the problems negotiating that is South Africa cannot negotiate those agreements on its own. It must do it as part of SACU, the Southern African Customs Union.
Okay.
SACU, yeah. So now say for instance, say a hypothetical example with India. So we say to India, please drop those tariffs, import duties for South African fruit. And they say, okay, but we want to export more Tata vehicles to the SACU region. And then Namibia might say, no, we Toyota guys, we don't want more Tatas. And then it's on the table, just a hypothetical example that can say it's not like for like. It's not fruit for fruit, and other things at play as well that we understand that there's a bigger picture, but we really feel, that more can be done there to make us more competitive. But I said our quality, and then also coming to your question, stimulating more demand.
Yes.
Should we have then the access and or the favorable trade agreements is trade shows, international trade shows, Fruit Logistica Berlin, Asia Fruit Logistica in Hong Kong coming up in September now, Food Attraction in Madrid. But because of the financial constraints of our government, so our Department of Trade, Industry and Competition cannot fund these shows any longer. So we have to find the money. For Fruit Logistica Berlin, we funded this year. We're funding Asia Fruit Logistica in Hong Kong now, which they used to fund 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
But we've started with Fruit Attraction in Madrid, 4 or 5 years ago, but we fund that. In any case, we do Fresh Produce India, we fund every year. We do Fruit and Veg Fair in China. We've the Philippines AgriLink. So the reason why we're doing some of these smaller shows is because that participation in some of those countries, say in China, if you participate in that event, you get a guaranteed appointment and meeting with the government officials, together with our government. So although the show in itself is small, but the opportunity around it. So we must be there. And South Africa is the biggest exporter of fresh fruit in the Southern Hemisphere. 32% of all the fresh fruit in the Southern Hemisphere being exported by South Africa. So we cannot afford to be absent at these trade shows. The biggest player in the Southern Hemisphere must be there. You can't have Chile and Peru and the other guys there and South Africa not.
Exactly. And then also, while you are there, the market on that side, not necessarily their government, the market will ask for South African products. Yes. And that will spark the government to act.
Yes, that is part of it, where we do, and in South Korea, a recent example with grapefruit, where we did an in-store promotion. And that stimulated the demand so much, it almost doubled.
Wow. During
the time of the promotion with retailers there. And I think that high demand remained for about 4 months afterwards. But just to make the people aware, and so in these trips, we try and partner with the industry associations, importers or chambers of commerce and industry in those countries, and see how can we create a big demand and a pull from the commercial side on their government to try and expedite the process. And from here on this side, we also involved with our government to see how can we expedite these processes as soon as possible.
Incredibly interesting.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And for us to come to this International Fresh Produce Association event, it's for us a glimpse into the international sector. And thank you so much for chatting to us and for sharing that with us. Thank you, Anton.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Louise.
Thank you.
Thank you.